All right, guys, we're back now. I know last night when we were shooting, it was a little bit dark. It was hard to see. I really wanted to shoot it in the dark because I wanted you guys to be able to see the colors of the fire, and also just for it to be a little bit more realistic because I never heat treat knives in a fire during the daylight, just because you really can't see the colors and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what temperature the blade is getting up to, and either you'll heat it or overheat it pretty easily. I know it's hard to see, but we've got the knife is all finished out now here. And remember what I said before is that when we first pulled it out of the fire, it was really, really hard, and actually too hard, and it was really brittle. So last night I took it home and I put it in the oven at 400 degrees for like 2 hours, and that tempered it, so that softened the steel a little bit. So it kind of gave it that happy medium like I was talking about before between hard and flexible, right? You can see that there's some black stuff on the blade. That's called scaling. That's normal in a fire. There's like carbon like adheres to the steel, and there are some products that you can use to keep it from doing that. There's like a clay product that you can paint on and let it dry, and there's also like a stainless steel foil, like kind of like tin foil, that you can wrap the knife in. Personally, for this knife, I'm not going to worry about it. I think it looks kind of cool. Actually, gives it kind of a rustic look, and I really, with this class, my intention is to teach you guys just the basics of knife making. If you're interested in making a finer knife, that's polished and more beautiful, then go ahead and take the Blade Master course. That's really where I talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff. In there, also putting on wood handles and things like that. So you may or may not be able to see, but there's also some file marks in here. I'm going to go ahead and leave those in. It doesn't bother me. Usually when I make knives, I'm usually pretty anal about everything being perfect. But with this knife, I set out to not make it perfect. I really wanted a useful knife that didn't take me that long to build, and took very minimal tools. So I didn't even sand this knife at all. I didn't even use a single piece of sandpaper on this thing. If you do want to get the file marks out, I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. It's really, really important that you do that before you heat treat the knife. When the steel is still soft, it's actually pretty easy to sand out those file marks. After the steel is hardened, it's incredibly hard to sand them out. And I say this because I have done this more than once, where I've not taken the file marks out or not seen them, and then tried to sand it later. And you can sand them out, but it's going to take a lot of sandpaper, and it often takes like an hour or 2 hours to get those file marks out. Especially if you're sanding by hand. If you're using like a rotary sander on a that's powered by air, or if you're using a rotary sander that goes on your mini grinder, actually it'll come out really pretty fast. But those are some little shortcuts. Anyway, I'm really pleased with how the knife turned out. I think it's going to be a really neat little knife. All this other stuff I've been talking about, the scaling and the file marks, that's all just aesthetic. It won't affect the way the knife performs at all. The more I've gotten into knife making, the more I've tried to perfect the quick knife, And if you ever wanted to do this for a living, I don't think there's a ton of money in the average person building like perfect knives, But I think you could sell really quickly made knives like this, and actually make pretty decent money probably. I mean, I probably have in this knife total less than 2 hours, of work. So I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, I wanted to go over this morning just putting a handle wrap on, and I'm just going to use parachute cord. That's how this knife was designed. That's why I cut this little kerf in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and sharpen the knife up, get it razor sharp. So we'll go over that. We'll go over that now. So the hot spot of this fire is right in the middle. You want to be careful not to put the tip right in the middle, because the tip will heat up to a lot hotter than the rest of the steel. And even if the tip doesn't melt off, you don't want this tip to be tempered at a different, or you don't want it to be heat treated at a different hardness as the rest of the blade.